Welcome back to Michael's Sleep Well. Tonight, I'll take you deep into the foggy heart of an ancient village where whispers rise from the water. This is the Whispers Beneath the Lake, a haunting tale of forgotten curses, drowned secrets, and the thin line between the living and the lost. Get comfortable, close your eyes, and let the story begin. The village of Elsmore had always been quiet, nestled deep in a wooded valley in northern England, encircled by hills and hugged by a cold, deep lake known as Blackmere. Fog blanketed the water every morning, and in winter the lake froze over, trapping secrets beneath its silver skin. The villagers lived simple lives, fishing, farming, and tending to their sheep. Nothing ever truly changed in Elsmore. Until one day, people began to disappear. It started with William Hart, the blacksmith, a large man with arms like tree trunks and a temper to match. He was last seen crossing the bridge toward the lake one evening. When he didn't return by morning, the villagers sent out a search party. They found his hammer lying in the frost by the lake shore, but no sign of William. No footprints, no boat, no splash. It was as if he had been swallowed whole by the fog. The next to vanish was Lucy Fielding, a quiet girl who sold bread with her mother at the market. One misty afternoon, she told a friend she heard singing coming from the lake. That night, she didn't come home. By the time the sixth person went missing, fear gripped the village like a wolf's jaws. People locked their doors. Children were forbidden to play outside after sunset, and everyone avoided the lake. Everyone except Daniel Mercer. Daniel was not a native of Elsmore. He had moved there 6 months ago after the death of his parents, inheriting a small cottage that once belonged to his great uncle. At 23, he was an outsider with a fondness for books and an unshakable curiosity. He had heard the stories, the whispers of cursed waters and spirits beneath the lake, but he believed there was a rational explanation. One cold morning, Daniel stood on the edge of Blackmere with his journal in hand. He scribbled notes on the strange animal tracks he had found nearby. They didn't belong to any known creature in the area, long, webbed footprints with 3 claws, each as large as his hand. The deeper he studied the lake, the more questions he had. "Are you trying to disappear too?" a voice asked behind him. Daniel turned to see an old woman with a face full of wrinkles and eyes sharp as glass. She leaned heavily on a gnarled wooden cane. "I'm just curious," Daniel replied. "You'll end up dead, or worse," she muttered. "They always come when the fog is thickest. They whisper, lure you with voices you love." "Who?" Daniel asked. She tapped the cane against the ground 3 times. "The ones below, the drowned." The drowned. Long ago, before even my grandmother was born, there was a storm. A whole village under that lake, buried, and they were angry. Daniel's brow furrowed. "You're saying there's another village beneath Blackmere?" She nodded slowly. They weren't buried by nature. They were buried by fire, by betrayal. Before he could ask more, the woman turned and shuffled away, her cane tapping like a clock counting down. That night, Daniel sat by the fireplace in his cottage, flipping through old records he had found in the attic. His great uncle had been a historian of sorts, and the shelves were filled with books and maps. One yellow journal caught his eye, bound in faded leather. On the inside cover it read, "J. Mercer Notes on Elsmore's Curse." His pulse quickened. Page after page detailed strange sightings, glowing shapes under the ice, voices calling at night, black tendrils in the water. The last entry chilled him. March 3, 1892, I saw them. Eyes beneath the water. They remember. They're waking. Daniel looked up, the fire casting long shadows on the walls. Outside, the fog had returned, thicker than ever. That night, he dreamed of a girl floating just beneath the lake's surface, her eyes open, her mouth moving as if trying to speak. Her skin was pale, her hair drifting like kelp. She was whispering. Daniel awoke before dawn, the haunting vision of the whispering girl still clinging to his thoughts. Her face lingered behind his eyes, pale and sorrowful. He lit a lantern and returned to the journal, rereading his great uncle's final entries. The handwriting grew messier near the end, as if scrawled in haste or fear. The phrase repeated, "They are waking." Daniel knew he had to find the truth. He ventured into Elsmore's records office, a small stone building near the chapel. Mrs. Fenwick, the ancient archivist, raised an eyebrow when he asked about the history of Blackmere. "You're not the first Mercer to ask," she said, wheezing as she unlocked a dusty cabinet. "There was a village once, drowned in the Great Fire of 1643, but there's little left of it. It's as if someone wanted it forgotten." She slid a bundle of crumbling maps and documents across the table. One map caught Daniel's attention, a sketch of old Elsmore before the lake formed. Where the lake now shimmered, there had once been a town centre labelled Eldon Hollow. That evening, Daniel took a rowboat onto Blackmere. The water was dark, almost black and icy cold. He dropped a weighted lantern into the lake and leaned over the edge. A pale glimmer moved far below, too large for a fish. The light flickered, then died. From the depths came a soft, unmistakable whisper. "Daniel." He nearly toppled from the boat. The voice had been real, familiar. It was his mother, S. The next day, Daniel returned to Mrs. Fenwick with the map. She frowned when he pointed at Eldon Hollow. "Don't chase ghosts, dear. They don't like being disturbed." "What happened in 1643?" he asked. She hesitated. A betrayal. The villagers accused a healer, Ilara, for witchcraft. Said she summoned storms, poisoned the well. They burned her, and the fire spread. The lake came after, like the earth trying to wash away the sin. "Is there any proof she existed?" Fenwick produced a locked drawer from beneath her desk and pulled out a worn book. This was hers, found in the ruins, though most deny it. Daniel opened it. Strange symbols filled the pages, mixed with recipes, prayers, and drawings. At the very end was a name, Ilara of Hollow Water. The same night, Daniel dreamed again. This time he stood in a sunken village, surrounded by charred buildings submerged in greenish water. Figures drifted past him, men, women, and children, floating just out of reach. At the center stood a woman in a black dress. Ilara. She turned, and her eyes locked onto his. "You carry his blood," she said, "and with it the truth." He woke gasping, and the whispers echoed in his room. Word of Daniel's strange behavior spread. He was seen talking to shadows, rowing alone at night, muttering names from centuries ago. Some villagers said the lake had gotten to him. Others said he was cursed. Only one person didn't mock him, Clara, a school teacher whose brother had vanished 2 years before. "I believe you," she said one evening as fog rolled through the village. "My brother Ben, before he disappeared, he said he saw faces in the water, that someone was calling him." Daniel showed her Ilara's journal and the old maps. Together, they searched the forest near Blackmere, hoping to find the remains of Eldon Hollow. After hours of walking, Clara stopped. "Look!" Between the trees stood a ring of moss-covered stones, foundations of houses. Daniel knelt beside one and scraped away the moss, revealing blackened wood beneath. They were standing in the ruins. Suddenly the wind rose. The air grew cold, heavy. A shadow flitted between the trees, whispering their names. Clara clutched his arm. "We need to go." But before they could move, a voice rang through the clearing, a child's voice, sweet and sad. "Stay." Back at Daniel's cottage, Clara stared at the journal. This Ilara, she wasn't just a healer. These symbols, their bindings. "You think she cursed the village?" "No," Clara said. "I think she protected it. Something else did this." They translated more of Ilara's book. One passage stood out. "I heard them in the water, ancient and endless. They hunger for warmth, for breath. I tried to seal them, but I failed." Clara whispered, "There's something older than the village, something beneath it." That night they returned to Blackmere. Daniel dropped a lantern into the water again. This time, what surfaced wasn't a reflection, but a face. Lucy Fielding, the missing girl. Her mouth moved, though she made no sound. Clara leaned in and gasped. She said they are prisoners, but not of Ilara. A monstrous shape twisted beneath Lucy's face. Long arms, talons, a flickering gaze like fire in the depths. Daniel yanked Clara back as the water surged. They fled the lake as tendrils of mist followed, whispering in countless voices. Daniel and Clara brought Ilara's journal to Father Wren, the village priest. He read it with trembling hands. "This is ancient magic, pre-Christian. Ilara didn't summon evil. She tried to hold it back." He showed them a hidden page in the church's ledger. 1643, the Black Hollow, creatures from the deep, water twisted by rage. We sealed it with blood. "They made a pact," Wren said grimly. "They sacrificed the village to trap whatever was rising." Daniel was silent, but the seals breaking. That night the lake boiled. Fog flooded the streets. Villagers screamed as shadows dragged them into the woods. Clara and Daniel rushed to the chapel as the whispers grew deafening. In the stained glass windows, water poured from the mouths of angels. Then came silence. A shape rose in the doorway. Lucy. And behind her, hundreds of drowned souls. Lucy spoke through many mouths. "We were chained, betrayed, and now we rise." Daniel held up Ilara's book. "She tried to protect you." "No," the voices said. "She tried to protect you, her blood, her future. You are the last." Clara stared at Daniel. "You're her descendant." The drowned advanced. Clara grabbed the church's ceremonial blade. and slashed a line across her palm. Ilara's blood sealed them. Maybe love can seal them again. She clasped Daniel's hand. Their blood mingled on the stone floor. The souls shrieked, twisting in agony. A blinding light burst from the altar. The walls shook. "Speak the binding," Clara shouted. Daniel opened the journal and read Ilara's final spell aloud. The air split with thunder, and the drowned were pulled back. Blackmere fell silent. The fog lifted. The missing villagers were never found, but the whispers ceased. Daniel stood by the shore days later, Ilara's journal tucked under his arm. Clara joined him. "They're not gone," she said softly, "just sleeping again." He nodded, "And I'm their warden now." She smiled, not alone. Together they tossed flowers into the lake. Peace for now had returned. But beneath the still water, eyes blinked and waited.